Are the Vancouver Canucks about to make a colossal mistake? With the trade deadline just behind us, whispers in the wind suggest that a key player might be on the verge of leaving the team without any return. Our beloved Canucks chose to stand pat, opting not to capitalize on the market's frenzy, and now they might be staring down the barrel of losing a star without a single asset to show for it. This is a pivotal moment for the franchise, and fans should be on high alert as the stakes have never been higher. The NHL trade deadline has come and gone, and once again, the Vancouver Canucks have left us scratching our heads. Don't get me wrong. I'm still a diehard fan, but the silence surrounding Brock Boeser's situation is deafening. For the second consecutive year, the Canucks were relatively inactive, with the only significant move being the trade of Carson Soucy. But the real story here is Boeser. The opportunity to capitalize on his potential and the current market conditions has slipped through our fingers, and I can't help but feel it was a monumental mistake. Let's break this down. The trade deadline this year was unlike anything we've seen in the past 5 years. Teams were making bold moves, paying top dollar for players. Just look at Anthony Beauvillier going for a second-round pick and Jake Wallman being sent to the Oilers for a conditional first-rounder. The market was ripe for sellers, and the Canucks were in a position to take advantage of that. Reports suggested the Canucks were fishing for a first-round pick, but when that didn't materialize, it seems they opted to hold on to Boeser instead. I get it. They didn't want to accept less than what they believed he was worth. But that logic doesn't account for the bigger picture. Brock Boeser is a talented player, and with his contract nearing its end, now was the time to strike while the iron is hot. By trading him, the Canucks could have brought in young prospects, or even a second-round pick, something that would bolster our future during this retooling phase. Instead, they chose to keep him, and the latest reports indicate that Boeser hasn't signed an extension for next season. The two sides appear to be miles apart, with Boeser reportedly rejecting an $8 million per year offer for 5 years. He's looking for a 6-year deal or more. If the Canucks aren't willing to step up, what's stopping him from exploring other options in free agency? And here's where it gets really concerning. If Boeser walks away in July, the Canucks risk losing a player of his caliber for nothing. No assets, no return, just a gaping hole in our roster. That's a classic case of asset mismanagement. You simply can't let a player with such talent leave without receiving anything in return. Even if the offers weren't what general manager Patrick Allvin had in mind, acquiring any kind of asset would have been better than losing Boeser for nothing. Now, the Canucks find themselves in a precarious position. As we chase a playoff spot, it feels like we're on the edge of a cliff, and losing Boeser could be the shove that sends us tumbling down. This isn't just about one player, it's about the future of the franchise and the dreams of every fan who's devoted their time and passion to this team. We've all seen how quickly a team can fall apart without key players, and if Boeser ends up leaving, we could be staring down another long rebuilding phase. So, I ask you, do you think this was the best decision? Honestly, I'm torn. On one hand, I understand the desire to hold on to talent like Boeser, but on the other hand, the risk of losing him for nothing is just too great. The Canucks could have set themselves up for a brighter future, but now we're left wondering what might have been. So, here we are. Another trade deadline has come and gone, and the Vancouver Canucks have once again chosen the path of relative silence. Sure, they made a small move by trading Carson Soucy, but the big news, the one we all waited for, centered around Brock Boeser. And let's be real, fans. This decision to hold on to Boeser could be a significant misstep for the organization. We've seen other teams take bold steps, capitalizing on a market that was ripe for sellers this year. Players were flying off the shelves, and yet, our Canucks stayed put. Just look at what some teams got in return for their assets. Anthony Beauvillier fetched a second-round pick, and Jake Wallman was shipped off to the Edmonton Oilers for a conditional first-rounder. It was a seller's market, and the Canucks had a prime opportunity to capitalize on it. Reports suggested that Vancouver was looking for a first-round pick for Boeser, but when those offers didn't materialize, they opted to keep him. I get it. They wanted to hold out for the best possible deal. But the reality is, they might have missed the boat entirely. By keeping Boeser, who is now on an expiring contract and seemingly not in the team's long-term plans, the Canucks risk losing him for nothing when he becomes a free agent. Imagine this. If they had traded Boeser, they could have brought in young prospects or even a second-round pick, assets that could help bolster the team's future. Instead, they decided to hold on to a player who hasn't signed for next season, and the latest chatter suggests that he's not close to agreeing to an extension. This puts the Canucks in a precarious position. Now, Boeser rejected an $8 million per year, 5-year deal, and it seems he's aiming for 6 years or more. If the Canucks aren't willing to meet those demands, he has every right to explore free agency. And if that happens, they'll be left wondering what could have been. Losing a player of Boeser's caliber without getting anything in return would be nothing short of mismanagement of assets. As a passionate fan, this is where I start to feel a mix of frustration and concern. This decision doesn't just affect the team on the ice. It impacts our hopes and dreams as fans. We're all rooting for the Canucks to make a serious playoff push, and losing a talent like Boeser could leave a massive hole in our lineup. Do you think this was the best decision? Honestly, I'm torn. I understand the desire to keep a player of Boeser's talent, but there's a fine line between hope and reality. If he walks away in July, what does that say about our management's ability to navigate these crucial moments? It's disheartening to think that the Canucks could go from hoping for a playoff berth to losing a key player without any compensation. So, let's talk about the future. The Canucks are in a phase of reevaluation and rebuilding, and every move counts. The choices made now will determine the trajectory of this franchise for years to come. And it's not just about keeping players, it's about making strategic decisions that will propel us forward. What do you think, Canucks fans? Are we on the right path, or have we missed a golden opportunity? I want to hear your opinions down below. How do you feel about Boeser's future with the team, and do you think the Canucks should have pulled the trigger on a trade? Let's keep this discussion going. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all things Vancouver Canucks. And please, activate that notification bell to get all the latest updates. We're in this together, and your voice matters. Let's hope for the best as we move forward.